For while John's making his way up here, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our veterans. So if I could have all the World War II veterans stand. Korean War. Vietnam War.
How about the Gulf War?
Or the Gulf War. Those types of Gulf War.
All right, thank you.
And the Gulf War. So I just want to, on behalf of our club, thank you for your service. And we wouldn't be able to have the elections we have or the freedoms that we have without your dedication and service. So really appreciate your service to our country. And with that, I'll turn it over to John. John, do you want to come up here? Do you want to chair?
No, I want to sit here by the machine here.
Okay, well then I'll bring the mic to you. We don't want you to touch any buttons.
Huh?
We remember you touched buttons last time. That's the mic right there. So no, you're right there behind you. Okay, so let's welcome John on his Veterans Day program.
I will come up for a minute. You know, we honor our veterans, and next Tuesday is Veterans Day. But this show is going to show you how much French people appreciate American veterans and what we did for them 70 years ago. Oh, where's that map?
You're standing in front.
You're standing in front of it. We met at Nice, and then we came down between Saint-Tropez and Cavaliers, where we fought and landed. And then we went up along the Rhone River up to Besançon, and then into the Vosges Mountains, and over to Strasbourg, and then down to Colmar, and then across towards Paris. We stopped at the last stop is Chateau Thierry, where my division fought real hard in World War I. So that's
World War II.
So I'm going to sit here and push this button. You know, this talk is long because it's designed mostly for more time, but I'm going to really rush through it. We met here in.
You got to click on the slide.
Do I just
No,
hit
you
this?
don't. You can just hit that.
Where do I click? Yeah, right there.
Why don't you have him tell you to do it?
Yeah.
Have him tell you to do it.
Well, I want
You
to
do
do
it.
because I'm going to go so fast some places.
John, just keep telling them next slide because we want you to be able to devote your attention to the slides and not worry
Yeah.
about the mechanics.
Okay.
Well done, Billy. Let him do it, John. We'll go
Okay,
as fast as-
yeah, we met in Nice, a real beautiful city, and then click, click, click. The first stop was this is on the 14th, the day before the celebration stop, but we stopped at this wonderful French military museum that had decades or centuries of, keep kicking quick, centuries of things, and World War II, of course, was included. And not quite, let me tell you when it clicked. Then we went to the next museum in Le Croix-Valmer, and this is where they have a nice exhibit of our landings there, and they had this diorama, these miniature craft on the beach. It's quite interesting. And then we went to the town. Le Croix-Valmer every year celebrates their anniversary, and they celebrate it with the most unusual way. Everybody in town's invited to have this French bread and anchovy paste and all the wine they can drink. They have a wonderful rosé wine there. And Josie Ann, our tour leader, our tour guide, she must have been hungry that day. And they introduced the veterans and gave us some awards. Now the next day, actually the 15th of August, 70 years ago, we landed on these beaches. It's called Yellow Beach. That was a monument to the 7th Army Commander, General Paz. And this is Yellow Beach, and wait till I click. See that boat way down the distance? That's where my regiment, that's where I landed with the 15th Infantry. And they're getting ready to celebrate there, and these are the veterans. You know, our 50th anniversary, we had 140 veterans, and this one we have 4. There are just not many left that are well enough to do this, but these 4 men, the tall man, the second from the left, he landed in North Africa, and they fought in Sicily, Italy, France, Germany, and Austria. The other 3 of us all came into the war as replacements on the Anzio beachhead, and so these 4 veterans represented everybody. Now we're at Central Pay at the monument there, and we have a monument to our people, 15th infantry people that died there at Central Pay. This is a very big, famous resort. And then, of course, out to the beautiful countryside to LaCroix Valmeyer, and they have I'm really rushing this, but I'm sorry about that, we have a lot to see. They have a monument to the people that landed there, and here they all gathered. And of course, people of all ages take tribute. You know, I wrote that book and was translated into French, and the Rock of the Marne, these people dressed like American soldiers, they had it printed and sold it, but whenever I'm over there, I end up signing a bunch of them, and I don't mind doing that. They use that money to good cause, and they're wonderful for us. You know, we had police escorts because it's hard to get between these villages, but they drove all those cars off, and people come in the opposite direction or driven off the road too. Now, we're in Cavalier, and this is a big city, and all these people turning out for this shows you how much they appreciate what we did for them.
Wow, how many are there?
There's thousands of them. This little girl's 10 years old, and she sang for us. And there's the monument and to their liberation on the 15th of August. You know, on our tour we had the 4 veterans, but then we had 16 close family members of veterans, you know, spouse, father, grandfather. We also had 16 family members and 15 friends of veterans. So there are 36 on this tour, and we were all treated wonderfully well. The Rock of the Marne, and these are the groups of young French people that reenact a lot of things all year round, what we do. And there's some French reenactors. Now this parade includes lots of American equipment that was left over after the war, half-track, and another half-track, and a Jeep. There's a lot of Jeeps over there. These ducks, these are amphibious vehicles that can go out to the boats and get a load of supplies and come ashore and drive on. It's very important in some of the invasions. Another one. This is a 2.5-ton truck. This is the kind of truck that everybody used in World War II. And this one's pulling an artillery piece. And this is a gas truck and a big freight truck. And then a Jeep like an ambulance, and then a regular ambulance. And the French Forces of Interior were very active in southern France, and we did a lot of things together. But that's it. Those are partisans. And a fire truck for a Navy base. And in here, we had a nice lunch there and a glass of wine, and this lady, Mary Ann, she spilled that wine all over her blouse. But, go back one. What's interesting is, they're the only people that didn't get their luggage. Their luggage arrived home the same day they did. So she's washing clothes and borrowing clothes, but she was a wonderful sport. Now, these are 2 police officers. The one on the left is my grandson-in-law, and the one on the right is a gentleman that arranged our convoy, police escorts. They're both on the squad, the special team. Wait, go back.
SWAT?
What do they call those teams? SWAT teams. And they're both the lead sniper in their teams. And so they had lots to talk about. This is Cavalier, and this is where the 30th Regiment landed. And then we went over to Cogman to see another parade of all things. Two big parades in one day. But it just shows you how much they recognize and appreciate their liberation. And then the next morning, then that night we were on our own, and next morning we went to Draguignan. And this is a big cemetery where for southern France areas, and it's always a big ceremony. There's some French military. The Navy had a band there. Now, these are the dignitaries. That French officer is the top general in France, and then the admiral on the end is the top American admiral serving right now in France. The mayor, and then some dignitaries. And they kind of forgot us. All the dignitaries left because they had a tight schedule in Marseille. But they announced that there were 4 veterans that had landed on those beaches, and they had a wreath of plans. And when we did that, my golly, the applause was long and very enthusiastic. There's the American Navy band. Then we went to Avignon. This is an ancient Roman city, very famous for the Catholic Church, the Pope, and the Catholic Church was there for a half a century in the 15th century. And these buildings are well attended, well visited. There's the backside of the Pope's palace.
Did you honor the Pope, John?
Yeah, we always do. There's this bridge, I don't know the reason it's broken, but it was never fixed, and Josiane said they'd sing a song about that broken bridge. Even American, she said. This town is really a big tourist attraction. We always wanted to visit, but we didn't fight here, but finally this time we decided to go. And this is the theater and opera house, and then here's the city hall, and we were invited to a reception there. And what's interesting is they had an elevator to the second floor, and guess what? 6 of our people, that's that's funny. We're trapped in that elevator for almost a half an hour, and that probably seemed like 2 hours. So when the mayor came in, I introduced the mayor, and he brought 1 staff member, and I said, the mayor must have known they had a faulty elevator because the only person he brought with him was the city attorney. And this ancient city hall, this is a kind of reception area. But what's interesting, in that city hall is this statue. One of those mayors had a wife and a mistress, and I don't think they got along too well. And of course, my grandson's trying to outstare that statue, but he didn't get very far. Yeah, we spent the night visiting. The man on the right's father spent time at Dachau, but did survive the war. Had some beer in that place. Then we went north to Louvain, and you see, there's a church there that works good, but you see a lot of ruins of castles on these hills as we went north. And we had lunch in this nice place, and then looking across the river, you could see another castle on the. So then we go to this Arbos. We helped liberate this town, but we'd never been back. But they were so anxious to have us. And they said it'll be a nice reception. It's a town of 4,000 people. And so at the edge of town, they loaded us on vehicles, and we entered the town riding a jeep. The 4 veterans. And there, gosh, there were people and American flags everywhere. It's just incredible how much, 70 years ago when we fought there, but they still every year celebrate their liberation. And now, you want to see a crowd turn out. Look at all those people. I think everybody in that town turned out. They have monuments in all these towns honoring the veterans of World War I and World War II, and now we're at that monument, and we're sitting there with 2 French veterans. And look at all those people. And then, of course, a little ceremony, and they dedicated a plaque to us, which is nice. And then we went downtown, and the mayor again expressed the appreciation of his community, and it's a little bit of entertainment there for everybody, and then wine for everybody that wanted to come and have a glass of wine. Now, one thing this town's famous for, it's a home of Louis Pasteur, a very famous medical researcher. And he went to this church, and upstairs is a meeting room where they hosted us to a real nice dinner and some entertainment. And then off to Besançon. The next morning we went out to this bridge. This bridge was the last bridge still standing on our attack of Besançon. And so when the Americans tried to beat the German engineers there, and they did, but several people were killed there doing that, but the bridge stayed intact. And there's the Rock of the Marne. These young men are coming across the bridge, and they dedicated a plaque themselves to the people that fought for that bridge. And then we went to Besançon. This is Josie Ann, our tour guide. She was born in this town right at the same dates that we were liberating it. And this is the Doubs River. This river, you can see now where that line of the trees are. That really guarded one side of that river, of that town. Is everything okay?
Was Josie Ann born as you were marching into the town?
Well, that's what she said.
I was born on the 4th of September in another little town. But on the day of the liberation of Arbois, that's when I was born.
Now, on the backside of that town, there are these big forts. They were built in 1600, the end of 1600. And, Julius Caesar used to camp in these mountains, going back and forth between Rome and Italy and England. But it's very ancient, lots of Roman connections. Now we met at Fort Chardon for the big ceremonies. And here, this monument, a good friend of ours, he's been our friend since the 50th anniversary, and we've been here every 5 to 10 years. But he was responsible for this monument, and the symbolism is quite nice. You see that fracture, and it represents a fractured town, state, nation, with the 3rd Division doing what it could to heal it. And Josie Ann thought it would be nice. His widow, Michelle died recently, a couple months ago, but his widow was there, and Josie Ann suggested we give her a flag that flew over our capital, and she was very appreciative of that. Now, these are Rock of the Marne again. They also presented another plaque to one soldier and some of the units who were fighting there. Quite a few people died in this town. There's a church across from the city hall, and here's the city hall with ancient mayors all over the place. Now they got a lady mayor. A lot of these towns have lady mayors for the first time. This chef, Josie may know the name of him, but he was rated the top. Am I talking okay?
No.
Are you hearing me okay?
Let's get another mic.
Okay. He was the top chef in France last year. Okay. Is this better? No. Okay. I'll hold it up close. Yeah, be sure and let me know though if you don't hear me. So they had a great reception there and great food. The next noon we had lunch at a military police mass, and I gave. Go back with the cam. I gave Renee that plaque honoring her husband's work, and then that's another close friend of theirs. And there's Josie Ann. She kept this going. We had the most wonderful bunch of people. Everybody was prompt, well disciplined, and everything. We never had in 2 weeks. We never heard one single complaint. But a lot of it goes to the wonderful tour leader. Now we went to a town called Vesoul where we had a day and a half fight, and we stopped at this school, and 20 little kids asked us questions. Was it cold? Where did you sleep? And on. And that was quite nice that they were interested, and there's another picture of them. And there we went. This is where the plaque dedicated shows. Two of these dedication shows where we fought and liberated this town. It was an interesting battle. Nice wine reception. And then to the next morning to this town, Soup de Vesoul. And they had a battle there. And this is out of place, but this shows the wonderful architecture in Strasbourg and Alsatian architecture. But that should be what Alsace. And then, of course, we had 4 more ceremonies this time. At this town, there were 10 mayors in one of these ceremonies. There's the kids. And this is one town where we saw this fellow. He was a sergeant. He was defending a big counterattack. A number of them were killed. He was killed, but they kept the Germans out of this town, and he got a Congressional Medal of Honor for what he did. Now on this bridge, see that the tall guy in the green. This picture will show a picture of his. Okay, go back. I didn't tap. Okay, it show a picture of where his father was marching across this river, and in the back you'll see that there's 3 buildings there. The 2 on the right, the red roof one, and the one there. they're still there. And so this is what it looks like now. And you can see what's left of those two buildings. And then the third one on the left is his father. They look alike a little bit. And then we went on to as I said, there were 4 villages. This town, I say 33rd Division men were killed capturing this town, and they honor them with their names on these monuments. And there's a Livermore guy. And he's trying to recruit that girl to come and sing at our opera.
He looks French.
And then we had a nice, another nice reception with the mayor's talking and saying thank you. The next morning out to the American Cemetery at Epinal. These cemeteries are American soil. They're all beautifully decorated and maintained. Now this is a German friend of mine. He was in the German 19th Army. That army was in southern France when we landed, but Hitler ordered him back on D+2, so we didn't have to fight them, but except we had 400 miles of chasing them and a lot of rearguard action, but they didn't stop to try and stop us. But we tried to cut them off and almost did, but didn't make it. But he was there. He wanted to be with us, and the next morning he laid a wreath in behalf of the German soldiers. And my people were quite impressed with the reconciliation, as the word they used. Enemies could be friends, and of course, he's been a good long friend for a long time. On this cemetery, there are 5,000 buried there. 800 of them are 3rd Division veterans. At one time, the ceremony held 10,000 Americans, but in 1948-9, almost 2/3 of all of the dead soldiers came back to their family hometowns and cemeteries. There was also 6,000 German soldiers in this cemetery, and they were all, of course, sent to their own cemeteries. On the walls are, as I say, there are 5,000 buried, but there's a name of 3,000 missing in action. Their bodies were never identified or found. They're on the walls. Then Epinal for a lunch, again, the mayor saying thank you for everything, and had another nice wine reception. And then we went to this building. This is a 400-year-old house, a restaurant and a house, but really a wonderful place to eat. We'd been there before and liked it and came back. A king of France considered this one of his favorite restaurants and visited there whenever he could. And we certainly enjoyed being there with him. This is a picture. There was 3 men in the front row there. That lady with her surrounded by. They were about 10 or 7 to 10 years old when the war hit, and their family lived next to a big sawmill. And the Germans had buried all kinds of munitions, or stored all kinds of munitions in that area. And they realized that, by golly, if a shell hits that pile of munitions, it'd be a big explosion. So they started to leave. And sure enough, as they were leaving, the shell hit, and the top 2 names are the names of their parents, and then the next 3 names are names of their siblings, and then down below are the names of 5 Americans that were killed when that bomb hit. It destroyed, of course, the sawmill and their home, and killed those people. And then to Turkheim, we had a free night in Colmar. The next morning we went to this Alsatian town. These are beautiful towns. They all have a lot of windows, boxes of flowers. This town is famous for this museum. It's a museum of the Colmar pocket. And it shows you, these are what these villages look like after a couple of months of war. And this is the village where I was wounded, and you can see that's the way it looked like when I entered it. How am I doing on time? I got a little more time.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2-minute warning.
Yeah, you can see the 36th Division fought 2.5 weeks in this town, could never capture it, and then we attacked, and this was just the way it looked when I hit it. And of course, you can see with that kind of destruction how you could maybe get away when I hit that German, but. That is, there's only 3 pre-war buildings left in this town. The German prisoners of war cleared all the rubble out, and that's what it looks like. Then it's been rebuilt. It's quite a nice town now. That's a Mark IV tank, the kind of tank that came to that courtyard and shot at us, forced us to surrender. then we came into Bender and gathered here at this kind of a special place, at least in my honor. It was a place called Place John Shirley. When I was standing there was 2 rows of these Rock of the Marne people in the back row, and somebody said, "Turn around and look and see what's behind you." And my son was in that second row, and I didn't recognize him. That's your son. God, I couldn't have been more surprised. So then I introduced him and my other son, Jim, and my grandson-in-law to everybody, and got a nice applause. And then, of course, we marched back from Place John Shirley to where the monument is, and we got to ride in jeeps, and the mayor had to walk. And then, this is the other structure left in that town. It's a monument that was built in 1924 after World War I. It honors Alsace and Lorraine. Those 2 girls represent those 2 provinces, and those 2 provinces are always with the victor. Germans win, it's German, and the French win, it's French. And you can see what it looked like, the war, the end of the war. And we had nice receptions there, and meal and honors. There's the mayor. First mayor of this town's been there for, many hundreds of years, and it's the first woman mayor. Then off to Holsware. This is where Audie Murphy got on a burning tank destroyer and drove off a strong counterattack, and got a Congressional Medal of Honor. And there's that same place. Then there for a reception in Holsware. And then off to this the bridge of Maison Rouge, the 30th Regiment crossed that body of water, and they were on the other side, and my gosh, the Germans counterattacked with infantry and tanks and just raising holy heck. The engineers were saying that the bridge won't hold the tanks, but then they insisted, pretty soon they insisted, get 1 tank over there, we're getting slaughtered. And of course it fell through, and most of that regiment was, a lot of it was captured, a lot of them were killed and wounded, but that man's father on the right, his father was captured there. And, and then, of course, we had a nice dinner here at a restaurant in Justin's house.
John, that's a good slide to end it on. Having
What's
a
that?
nice dinner with a good glass of wine, good way to wrap it up.
Well,
So thank you so much.
It'll only take a few minutes to finish. You
If
got another
anybody's
100
interested in staying, John has a few more slides, but we just want to wrap it up to be respectful for people who have to go back to work. Not everybody has to go back to work, but some
Okay,
do.
well, anybody want to start, we can show you about.
Yeah, so let's just wrap up saying that I just want to make everybody aware that we're going to have a social on November 19th. Linda's working hard on it, and there'll be more information to follow. And next week's speaker is Roger Ames. He's going to talk about fracking. So that should be an interesting subject. It's kind of controversial, and new technology should be good to hear about. There's $59 in the pot, and the ticket is last 3, 469. 469. So happy birthday and happy anniversary, everybody. Thanks for coming. Who has 469?